You know, people always told me time heals. It's been 20 years since I lost my husband, and in many ways, they were right. The pain softened, and life filled up with taking care of the kids. My days were busy with school runs, scraped knees, broken hearts, and scraped knees again. Every day, I felt like I was living for them, my little ones, giving them everything I had so they never feel the emptiness I did. But the years, oh, they've slipped by quicker than I imagined. Now, my children are grown, married, with little ones of their own. Holidays are filled with the sounds of their laughter, the pitter-patter of tiny feet, and that rich feeling of love in the air. But once they all leave, the house is so empty, too quiet. I find myself alone, wondering who I am without anyone to care for. It's a strange thing, this loneliness. It doesn't just hit you all at once. Instead, it creeps in little by little, filling the quiet spaces until one day, you realize the silence feels louder than any noise. I catch myself standing in this big, empty house, wondering how a place that's filled with memories could feel so empty. There's a coldness to it, a chill that even the warmest blankets can't seem to touch. Some nights, as I sit alone in the living room, it feels like the walls are holding in all the quiet, pressing down around me. For the longest time, I couldn't figure out what I needed. Did I want real companionship, or just someone here to break up the silence, to bring a little warmth back into these rooms? I thought maybe, just maybe, I could find someone. I tried meeting new people. I'd smile, laugh, make conversation, but it always felt empty, like something was missing that I couldn't put my finger on. There was always a distance, a space I couldn't close, no matter how much I wanted to. It was like a piece of me got locked away with my husband, a part of my heart that no one else could quite touch. Even when I tried, when I really gave it a chance, it felt like I was just going through the motions. I'd hear myself laughing, see myself smiling, but inside, I felt a step removed, like I was just watching it happen. Sometimes I think I've built walls around that part of myself, walls I'm too afraid to tear down. Loving someone means opening up, showing your real self, and maybe I'm just not ready to do that again. Maybe I've been alone too long to let someone get their clothes. And so, here I am, in this house that's full of memories. There are family photos on the mantle, his books on the shelf, the old quilt we used to share folded on the couch. But somehow, these things only make the silence louder. They remind me of what I've lost, of what once was, and of the love that filled every corner of this place. I wonder sometimes if I'll ever find that kind of connection again. Part of me wants it so badly, wants someone to fill the empty spaces, to make me feel warm and whole. But another part of me, well, that part holds onto the past, afraid to let go, afraid to feel that loss all over again. So here I am, with my memories and the quiet. Just me, holding on to what once was, not sure if I'll ever find something like it again. But I suppose that's okay, for now. So, I decided maybe a house help would do. Someone to share space with, to keep things moving and lively in a different way. The first young man who walked through my door was the one. There was something about him, right from the moment I saw him. Younger than me by miles, probably in his 30s, yet he had a kind, gentle energy that made me feel at ease. His smile, there was something in it, like he was the kind of man who could see right into the heart of things. I hired him right on the spot, without a second thought. Over time, he proved to be exactly what I needed, and then some. He didn't just do his job, he had this attention to detail that made everything memorable. Each time he was here, he left a sense of care in every corner of the house. And I began to look forward to his visits, to his laughter filling the rooms, the warmth of his presence, a presence that lingered long after he was gone. I even found myself making excuses to ask him to stay longer. And he always stayed, always with a smile, which left me wondering if he was just being polite or if he, too, was starting to feel something. The months slipped by quietly, one day blending into the next. Yet each time he stepped into the house, it was as if a spark leapt within me, reigniting something I thought I'd long buried. His presence became more than just comfort. It became the steady pulse of warmth that I found myself looking forward to. I knew he was there to help with daily tasks, but his presence went beyond that. Every little thing he did seemed infused with such attention, such care, that it almost felt like he was tending to my very spirit. At first, I brushed off the feeling, told myself it was merely gratitude for his help. But gradually, it grew into something I couldn't ignore. He was there when I needed him, sharing in the rhythm of the household, moving with an easy confidence that made everything feel just a bit more alive. His touch, so small, so unassuming, lingered with me even after he'd gone, a reminder of that quiet warmth, like a cup of tea held in both hands on a chilly morning. Whether it was a casual hand on my shoulder or the way he would brush his fingers against mine when passing me a dish, his touch lingered, curling around my heart and filling the empty spaces that had settled there over the years. I would catch myself watching him when he wasn't looking. At first, it was small things, the way his shirts hugged the lines of his shoulders, hinting at a strength beneath that gentle exterior. His arms would flex as he carried a bag or reached for something, the muscles moving beneath his skin with a quiet strength that both surprised and fascinated me. I would watch the careful way he would arrange things around the house, noting the way his hands moved with a grace and purpose that drew my attention every single time. His hands, strong, with long fingers, precise and deliberate, seemed capable of both great strength and infinite tenderness. It was those hands, I realized, that started to haunt my thoughts. And his gaze, oh, how that gaze would undo me. He had a way of looking at me with such steadiness, such openness, that I felt as though he could see beyond the surface, see into parts of me I hadn't shown anyone in years. His eyes held a warmth, a kindness, that softened me in ways I hadn't expected. When he looked at me, I felt seen like a woman again, not just a grandmother or widow. His gaze was both gentle and intense, a reminder of something I hadn't felt since my husband's love filled this house. The thoughts that crept into my mind in the quiet hours took me by surprise, leaving me flushed and breathless, a giddy rush in my chest that I hadn't felt in decades. I told myself it was nothing, just the result of loneliness, but that small spark he'd kindled had started to grow, and there was no denying it anymore. My mind would wander, painting pictures in the stillness of the night. I could imagine his touch not just as a helper but something more, a brush of his hand, a lingering closeness, the way his voice sounded when he spoke in those warm, gentle tones. I would drift off to sleep with these thoughts, only to wake up and find them lingering still, like soft embers glowing beneath the ashes, waiting for a breath to bring them to life again. And with each passing day, I grew more and more curious. I would notice the way his shirt would stretch over his back when he bent down to pick something up, the way his skin gleamed under the light when he rolled up his sleeves. I'd catch glimpses of him in profile, the strong line of his jaw, the slight curve of his lips when he smiled. Sometimes, I'd imagine what it might be like to close the distance between us, to feel that warmth not just as a fleeting touch but something more, a connection that I hadn't dared to dream of in years. Every time I tried to bury those thoughts, to tell myself they were nothing, they would come back even stronger, each one more vivid than the last. I would find myself waiting for him, my pulse quickening the moment he walked through the door, hoping, imagining, wondering. It was as if my heart had awoken after years of slumber, and now that it was alive again, it refused to be ignored. One day, I decided I would ask him. I thought to myself, enough with the waiting. Just ask him. But when he was right there, I froze. Fear took over. What would he think of me, a woman my age, asking such a thing? I convinced myself it was foolish and dropped the idea. But the thoughts only grew stronger, bolder. Then one night, after I'd asked him to stay late to help with some cleaning, something changed in me. As we talked and laughed, I felt a surge of courage. Before I knew it, the words were out of my mouth. Would you be willing to help me feel something I've never felt before? I barely recognized my own voice, and for a moment, I regretted everything. I braced myself for his rejection, his shock, anything but what he actually said. He smiled, and there was no judgment in his eyes, only warmth. "It would be my pleasure," he replied softly, and in that moment I felt the weight of all my fears lift away. Gently, he moved closer, his arms encircling me with a care that sent waves through my whole body. He lifted me up as if I weighed nothing and laid me on the bed, his eyes full of kindness that made me feel wonderful. When his hands touched me, there was a gentleness in his grip that made every nerve in my body come alive, as if he was reaching into some part of me that had been dormant for years. He spread my legs apart with such deliberate tenderness, his touch both firm and reassuring, like he understood this wasn't just about my body. It was about my heart, my spirit, my need to feel seen and cherished. Each movement felt intentional, like he was unfolding a part of me that I had hidden away, carefully bringing it to light. As his hands continued their slow journey, every inch of my skin began to awaken, sparking sensations that coursed through me like tiny, warm waves. It was as if he was painting me with his touch, every stroke a promise of the joy to come. His fingertips trailed along my thighs, leaving a path that tingled with the sweet anticipation of his next move. I could feel the warmth of his breath as he leaned in, his closeness creating an intimacy that seemed to fill the room. And then, when he pressed his lips to that sensitive, vulnerable part of me, my whole world came alive. The feeling was unlike anything I had ever known. It was gentle yet electric, a spark that lit up places within me I'd almost forgotten existed. He moved slowly, savoring every second, every inch, as if he wanted to know every part of me. And when he used his tongue, his movements were careful, almost reverent, exploring me with a patience and softness that made me feel treasured in a way I never had before. His touch was both a question and an answer, a promise whispered into my very being. Each motion was deliberate, thoughtful, and I felt my body responding as though it had been waiting for this very moment all my life. It was as if he was reading my body's every reaction, responding to my breaths, my sighs, and the slightest tremble beneath his touch. I felt a warmth spreading within me, an ache that built with every gentle, rhythmic movement, each caress drawing me deeper into a world I never thought I'd know. My breaths came in soft gasps, my body alive in a way that was entirely new, entirely consuming. Asterisk in those moments, I was no longer just a woman rediscovering intimacy. I was someone being brought back to life, piece by piece, each touch and kiss like a spark reigniting my spirit. I felt myself surrendering to him, to the moment, letting go of every barrier and allowing myself to fully experience the wonder of being seen, felt, and cherished. It was as if he had unlocked something deep and sacred within me, a hidden part of myself that had yearned, silently, to feel this alive. I felt a wave building inside of me, a feeling so intense and unfamiliar that it was like something deep within me was waking up for the first time. The feeling started as a gentle pull, a warmth that grew stronger, building and building, like the tide rushing toward the shore. When it finally reached its peak, I was overwhelmed with a joy so pure, so powerful. It felt like nothing I had ever experienced before. I was completely wrapped up in it, as if a warm light was filling every part of me, blocking out the rest of the world. My body shook from the power of it, and he held me close, steadying me, making sure I didn't lose myself entirely. His arms were strong, reassuring, holding me as if I might just float away. But he didn't stop there. He was still there with me, guiding me through this amazing moment, and each wave of joy that followed felt even stronger. It was like I was being lifted higher and higher, each sensation blending into the next until I lost all sense of where I ended and the feeling began. It was as if my body, my heart, and my soul all came together in one perfect moment. The world around me became hazy and soft, fading away until there was nothing left but us, wrapped in this electric connection. My heartbeat pounded in time with each wave, matching the rhythm of the joy that was flowing through me. Every part of my skin was alive, tingling and warm under his touch. The air was thick with his sweet warmth that felt comforting and close, like we were in our own little world. With each wave of pleasure, I could see flashes of light behind my closed eyes, like fireworks going off deep inside of me. I didn't just feel this joy, I was part of it. I forgot about everything else, my responsibilities, my worries, they all melted away, leaving only this wonderful, powerful feeling. It was like a dance, a rhythm between us, each movement bringing me closer to something I hadn't felt in years. It was simple things, the brush of his skin against mine, the warmth of his breath, the softness of the sheets beneath us, all coming together into one beautiful moment that left me breathless. The waves kept coming, washing over me again and again, taking away years of loneliness and emptiness. I felt more alive than I had in years, like my whole being was glowing with joy. My old life seemed far away, even the gentle memories of my husband. Here, in this moment, I felt new, like a part of me that had been sleeping had finally woken up, filling me with happiness that would stay with me long after this moment ended. When it was over, I was too weak to move, lying there in awe, my heart filled with a warmth I thought was lost. He lay beside me, and I moved closer, my body drawn to his in a way I had never known before. He held me, his embrace gentle and steady, and in that moment, everything felt right. As I lay there, wrapped in his arms, I felt like I was truly alive, like I had been given a second chance at joy. It was as if all the years of sacrifice, of giving and caring for others, had led me to this one beautiful night. For the first time in so long, I felt complete, fulfilled in a way words could never capture. And I know this moment will stay with me until my last breath. Because in his arms, I found something I never thought I would again. Happiness, desire, and a love that made me feel whole once more.